accepted. Anyhow, I'm getting ahead of myself because when we got to Foggia, I started looking around, and I spotted the first fighter group, which had P-38s, and they must have heard me coming, heard that I was coming, because I think I had a reputation as being a retread, and they didn't have any openings. So that was heartbreaking. Well, I found the 14th fighter, and I went over and talked to them. The same thing happened. They just didn't have any openings. But somebody along the way said, have you tried the photo outfit over on the other side at Naples? And they're usually hard up for pilots. Well, that was good news. So I caught it right over to Naples, to Migliano Airport, and hunted down the P-38 outfit there, and I talked to the commanding officer and explained to him what I wanted, why I was there, and he said, I'll never forget your words. He said, boy, are you lucky. we lost 2 pilots last week, and you got a job. Well, that was luck. Anyhow, I started flying P-38s in a very short time, and I checked out in a rather brief spell. I did a couple of blindfold checks, in the cockpit, which I passed 100%. And the instructor got on the wing and directed me, and we went out, taxied out to the runway, checked mags. He climbed off the plane, wished me good luck, put up the stirrup, and I was on my own. And it was heaven. The 38 was everything I'd ever dreamed it would be. So I became a liability more than I did an asset. I can't explain it any better than to say you give a teenage kid, well, I guess I was about 20 then, 3,000 horsepower hot rod, and turn him loose. He's going to get in trouble. I went sightseeing. I did club chasing. I did rat racing with anybody that would rat race. I became the unofficial check pilot for the 12th Squadron. I lived at the airfield at the flight line. Everybody else went to town on a day off. I stayed. I worked with the mechanics. I helped them if I could. I washed the planes with a mixture of diesel and gasoline, and I put out the word, I will fly any P-38 or all P-38s anytime I can get my hands on one. So they obliged. I frequently had to fly slow time missions, and that was bad, because you get an hour up and nothing to do but just fly the airplane at slow RPM and slow speed. You go looking for something else to do. And I found my brother-in-law over on the far side of the peninsula in the 339th Service Squadron, which was assigned to the 92nd Bomb Group. And I used to go over and pay my respects to them. And finally one day I flew over their Lister bag, and the colonel or Major Holder did not appreciate that. He was their CO. But I got in real trouble one day when I buzzed Bob's tent, and his roommate, his tent mate, stepped out of the door at the same time, and here was a P-38 in front of him. And he bailed out into his foxhole and landed on an old orange crate that had broken up. Bob wrote me a letter, and he says, don't come back, because he's got a contract out on you. Like I said, that I volunteered for anything and everything. Eventually I was permitted to volunteer for, well, let's see, my first shoot. On my 33rd mission in May of 1944, I was assigned a mission over the front lines, and on the day of the breakthrough across the Rapito River, which was just to the west of the Abbey of Monte Cassino. And so it was it was milk run. You know, all I had to do is I started my flight line runs at 26,000 feet, and I could still see the runway that I'd taken off with. Pretty close, you know, 35 miles. So I started out in all innocence at 26,000 feet, flying along, minding my own business, taking my flight lines, and all of a sudden I had failed to keep track of what was around me, and lo and behold, right in front of me was a 4449. Now, you didn't have any trouble recognize the 44 because it had a wing that was on the bottom of the fuselage, an immense cowl, and his guns were flashing. So and he got some rounds in my tail because I told him hit. And very shortly, the elevator came off, which was not good. The airplane turned nose down, and while I'm trying to think of what next to do, I saw the airspeed climb past 450, and I decided, well, there's nothing else to do. And in the meantime, other parts of the airplane were coming off. The aileron came off and started spinning. So it was simple. I just reached down, reached up and released the canopy, released the seatbelt, and that's the last I remember. When I came to, I was nearly naked. I was tumbling over and over. My left shoulder was very, very painful. Found out later it was fractured and dislocated. I don't know. I must have hit the airplane somewhere. But I couldn't find the parachute strap. You know, you go looking for the D-ring and it isn't there. There's that old saw that says the supreme terror comes when you know you're about to die. You're falling from your parachute won't open and you're falling from the sky. I was in deep trouble, and I was doing a bunch of screaming, and I know, and then eventually I settled down because I knew I was running out of altitude, and so I began to try to get the harness back up on my shoulder, and it wouldn't stay. So eventually I just grabbed the D-ring and pulled it. And the next thing I had a beautiful piece of silk overhead. I was hanging head down. I got tangled, my feet had tangled in the shroud lines. So I had a terrible time getting untangled with this one arm. And shortly after that, I hit on a telescope on a Mount Trokio just south of Mount Abbey, and in no man's land. So when I hit this telescope, I started rolling down the hill, and I rolled up in the shroud lines, and I was very effectively stuck. And besides that, I was in the brush. And I was in and out of consciousness. Fortunately, some Polish troops had seen the parachute, and God bless them, they elected to bring the stretcher up, and they found me. I didn't. By this time, I was delirious. When I heard voices that I didn't recognize, it sounded like German. I didn't know my German voices were. Well, they were talking in Polish, but I still got my gun out of my holster, which was hanging down around my legs, and I couldn't see because the slipstream at that speed had pretty well bruised my eyes to where I could just barely make out shadows. Well, the Polish didn't take any time. They kicked the gun out of my hand and strapped me on this stretcher, and then they left me with one guy holding his hand over my mouth, so that to stop me from yelling and screaming because I was hurt. And they went over and ambushed a German patrol coming up the hill. Well, we'd been under artillery fire, and we knew that the Poles told us that they knew we were in trouble. So, but they ambushed this patrol